This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. Approximately 25.5 minutes remaining in this built-in hold. The ice inspection team is currently documenting what appears to be some light frost on main engine number 1, but at this time the team does not appear to be too concerned about what they're seeing. It is somewhat moist today, so there is a lot of humidity, and it's quite possible with the super cold temperatures up around the upper portion of the main engines where the temperatures are very, very cold, that some frost could form. We're going now to the astronaut quarters, the suit-up room, where we see Commander Dick Richards being outfitted with his helmet, or a final check of his helmet, and all the crew now in their day-glow orange launch and entry suits. There's pilot Blaine Hammond. Blaine Hammond, a colonel in the Air Force, has been an astronaut since 1984, and flown previously on STS-39, a Department of Defense mission in 1991. He has 199 hours in space. Here's mission specialist Mark Lee. He'll be performing one of the EVA crew members toward the end of this mission. He has 288 hours in space. There is Susan Helms. She is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force and has flown previously on STS-54 on a deployment of a tracking and data relay satellite. She has 143 hours in space, and is from Portland, Oregon. Carl Meade. Dr. Carl Meade has an MD and a PhD. Practiced medicine in the medical corps in the U.S. Navy. And there is Jerry Linenger, our medical corps astronaut. He's from East Point, Michigan, and Coronado, California. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 55 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. And we see our STS-64 astronaut flight crew now headed down the corridor toward the elevator in the operations and checkout building. Some of the employees at the astronaut office wishing them well. Dick Richards, Blaine Hammond, Mark Lee, Jerry Linenger, Carl Meade, and Susan Helms. This is shuttle launch control at T-minus 2 hours, 45 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. The Astrovan now passing the vehicle assembly building, and the launch control center now immediately on the left of the Astrovan. Space Shuttle Launch Director Bob Seek has just called for the mission management team and Houston Flight to gather on the Weather Channel here in about another 5 minutes or so for another assessment of our launch conditions. We are still red for flight through clouds greater than 4,500 feet thick, and for flight through thunderstorm debris clouds.
OTC, Anthony, 212. Go ahead.
Looks like Space Flight Meteorology Group is going to give us a go if we can pick up right away.
We are go for launch. Request we proceed immediately.
I copy that. Can we start officer quarters, please, and also Oasis recorder?
Wilco.
Discovery OTC, close and lock your visors. Initiate O2 flow. It's time to fly.
All right, that's complete, and we'll see you all in about a week or so.
Sound suppression system activated.
10.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Main engine start. 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1. Liftoff of Space Shuttle Discovery, developing new techniques to monitor our Earth's environment from space.
Roll program, Houston.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Houston now controlling. Discovery's rolling on course for a 57-degree inclination, 140 nautical mile orbit on its 19th trip to space. Discovery speed already 400 miles an hour, altitude 9,000 feet. 3 engines on board Discovery now throttling back to 2/3 throttle to prepare the spacecraft to pass through the area of maximum air pressure. Discovery now going supersonic. Speed now 1,023 miles an hour, 4 miles east of the launch pad. Altitude is 47,000 feet.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Go at throttle up.
3 engines on board Discovery now back at full throttle. Good hydraulic systems, good electrical systems on board. 1.5 minutes since liftoff. Discovery's already burned more than 2.25 million pounds of propellant and weighs less than half of what it did at launch. Flight controllers now be standing by for burnout and jettison of the twin solid rockets. Discovery's altitude now 108,000 feet, 16 miles east of the Kennedy Space Center. Speed now 2,700 miles an hour. Booster officer confirms a good separation and jettison of the twin solid rockets. Altitude now 167,000 feet, 32 miles east of the Kennedy Space Center. Discovery traveling 3,400 miles.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal performance, Brent, and you're in the barrel again.
Okay, Dick, we'll work on it.
This is Mission Control Houston as Discovery now passing above the Atlantic coast of Brazil at an altitude of about 140 nautical miles, with the mission specialist Susan Helms continuing through a checkout of the mechanical arm. This checkout of the mechanical arm puts it through its various drive modes, its primary and backup modes, and primary and backup powering devices to thoroughly check it out in preparation again for operations with the shuttle plume impingement flight experiment.
One great picture, Discovery.
Okay, we thought you'd enjoy that one. We'll go ahead and proceed. Sorry, that picture has to go away.
Thanks a lot. You got a great looking payload bay there.
Okay, this is position number 60. 1 day, 20 hours, 1942.
Robot arm operator confirms that the arm has now captured the area. Back on the flight deck, the procedures are pressing on for the release of the Spartan satellite on time at about 4:30 this afternoon.
And we're seeing the release now.
Spartan's a 2,800-pound satellite. Shortly after the release, the satellite on its own began a pre-programmed.
It's a great release, Susan.
Again, shortly after the release, the satellite on its own went through a pre-programmed series of pirouettes to ensure that it's a healthy spacecraft. Once those were completed, that signaled a healthy spacecraft and allowed Discovery's crew to slowly maneuver the orbiter away from the satellite to a point, station-keeping point about 50 nautical miles or so away from the Spartan, where it will remain for about a 40 to 48-hour period of time prior to rendezvousing and retrieving, capturing, and replacing this satellite back in the payload bay for the trip home. From this satellite on the sun's corona and the solar wind will be collected on board.
Good morning, Space Shuttle Discovery. Right now, your light instrument is lasing and we're collecting great atmospheric environmental data as we speak. And it's a great day for an untethered spacewalk in the payload bay.
Discovery Houston, we see you on internal power for the EMUs. You have a go for EVA.
At last, we can finally have access to the galley. Yeah, if there's no top yoke of pudding when I come back, you're all in trouble. Okay. Hold on, most of the way back. I'm going to come up. Come back forward. Smile right there for us, Mark. SATELLITE-BORNE is installed. It's tethered. The thermal cover is closed. I'm going off for the translation.
Copy.
Center of the bay.
Perform with AH off.
I'm going to get in the center of the bay and then take it off, Jerry.
Okay.
We have to make a fraction of the correction.
This is Mission Control Houston again. Mission Specialist Mark Lee here, performing his first calibration flight of the simplified aid for EVA rescue. Box-shaped trajectory above the payload bay.
And from the looks of it, James, it's working beautifully. You can see him control himself one axis at a time in rotation, and then along one axis at a time in translation. And it looks like a Olympic figure skater. It's so smooth.
Susan for Jerry.
Go ahead, scoring.
As you know, we need to cycle that valve and then vent it, sir.
Was that a question or a statement?
Yes, sir. Can you want us to cycle the valve and vent? Is that what you'd like us to try again?
Yes, you are. You're looking good.
The process that we see that will occur throughout this spacewalk is recharging the SAFER unit with gaseous nitrogen, which is used to propel the astronaut around the payload bay. There is a hose that's attached to that unit to recharge it, and that hose builds up pressure in it as well as the backpack does. And before the hose is disconnected, it needs down, or the pressure needs to be relieved from that hose.
Okay, sir.
All that appears to be the problem there was it required a little bit longer time, about 30 seconds or so, to bleed the pressure down in that line before disconnecting it from the backpack. Mark Lee is now on his way for the next step in the evaluation of the SAFER unit. SAFER again standing for the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue. Discovery is just beginning the 109th orbit of the mission, about to move from daylight into darkness as it flies over Europe on a northeasterly track, getting ready to move across Asia. Mark Lee now translating using the SAFER unit. He's untethered from the spacecraft. He'll be translating along the left side of the payload bay back to the aft end of the payload bay. And then he will turn around and fly back to the forward bulkhead. This is part of the system engineering evaluation. He'll fire the jets on the backpack for 1 second, and then he'll coast for about 5 seconds, and then conduct a 1 second braking maneuver with the unit.
We'll give you a good.
Throughout the test, the backpack has a data recorder that will capture the information during the performance evaluations.
What's your pad back there, Carl?
It's by Spartan. I'm armed and commencing +X now. All right, plus. Listen up, okay? Ready inside?
We're ready inside.
Be a roll. So, 1, 2, 3, down. Okay, that's a little bit fast. We maxed out. You can back off the arm. Back off the arm. I'm going to go one more time to let you back off a little bit. 3. 5 feet back. All right, AH. There's a little bit of coupling. That's way too fast. Okay? Okay, you reach any part of me? Not yet. It's off. Okay, good. Got you 59 and 60. Bring your arm back to position, please. Yeah, that must have been 60 degrees or so. We need to cut it down. Okay. Look like roll program. I'm glad it's dark, or that'd be scary. Okay, here we go. 59 and 62.
59 and 62 and wait on the arm one.
The cradle is no.
Okay, arm
Brake
ready.
display is up. Attitude hold off? Attitude hold is off. This one's going to be the yaw. Okay?
Carl Meade now set to slowly spin Mark Lee once again. The first one was a little too fast, and the crew's comments were evident of that.
It was a nice roll, though. Okay, that's perfect. 27. Back the arm off. 27 degrees with nothing in the other axes.
Copy.
Beautiful discovery.
Well, we're going to need to do them a little bit less than that, or we're not going to have a gas. Okay. All right, 51 and 55. Gotcha.
Copy.
Takes a long time for that to damp out. Okay.
And about a minute and a half to sunrise.
Okay. Bring your arm back to position, please. It's going to be a pitch.
Pitch you all multi-axis with translation.
I'm going to hold on to the tether here, Carl, or hold on to something until you're ready. Okay. Sounds like a good plan.
And we're ready in here.
Okay.
GN2 on power.
51 and 59. 3. Circle mark. And I just meant rate display. Okay, I'm ready. Okay. Watch your arm there. There you go. 3, 2, 1, now. 15 and 5.
Copy.
I can hear those jets firing.
You want arm stop?
Okay, you can stop the arm.
Carl Meade mounted on the end of the shuttle's robot arm, and Mark Lee free flying using the safer unit in its automatic hold mode.
I'm back. Rate display. Here we go.
AH off. Where are you off?
Yeah, we're set.
Okay, you're good to go.
3, 2, 1, now. Okay, I've got 3, 0, and 13.1. I'm going to go once around, and then I'm going to fly toward him. You can stop the arm.
Arm is stopped.
Okay, check and make sure AH, I didn't engage it. 39 and 53. Bring your arm to the test position.
Arm on roll. Arm's ready.
Carl Meade is slowly spinning him in various different axes to allow the attitude hold system to stabilize Mark Lee.
Right. Lock the arm. Three numbers, Mark. Salary to
you can see Mark engage the attitude hold, and it brings him right to a stop. It seems to be very quick reacting.
Okay, just for you guys' reference, I'm right at the top of the envelope now.
Okay, and that looks about right from here too.
I got 30 and 42, so I'm in good shape coming towards you. Run the arm all the way to the edge of the envelope.
Arms down the roll still.
With the attitude hold engaged, now the arm is pulling away from Mark Lee, and he's demonstrating the capability of flying across the payload bay, almost from one wing to the other.
Arm is stopped.
Okay, AH is off. 25 and 38. Looks good. Can't get much better than that. Looks good. Good. Thanks for the Y. I'll just bring us on down.
Copy and hold.
Susan Helms now slowly lowering the two astronauts back down into the payload bay. The views from the payload bay as Discovery moves into sunrise, crossing the southern Pacific Ocean, beginning a northeasterly track.
In step 16, vent the GN2 until the reg pressure is less than 50. And then you'll press on from there. And what that'll do will seal off the lines going to the orbiter. Step 20, in order to set up safer for the next recharge, depress the lock button and rotate the coupler clockwise to the open to flow position on the QD, attached to the SRS, and reattach the TMG.
Yes, toggle valve closed.
Toggle valve closed. Okay.
And access the quick disconnect coupler and attach to the SRS.
Okay, Mark, I'm going to raise your feet a little bit. Does that just go on over there? All right.
Step B, depress the lock button counterclockwise 270 degrees to the close to flow position.
Mark Lee now with a recharged backpack on his way for the final evaluation in his assessment of the safer unit. This is a flight qualification evaluation, or a flight quality evaluation. He will assess how precisely he can maneuver with the safer unit following the path of the robot arm. This is, again, an evaluation to determine how precise this safer unit can fly.
Okay, Story, I'm calling it stable at 45%.
Copy, Mark.
This final evaluation for Mark Lee is one of the most important points during the safer evaluation to ensure that free-flying astronauts can maneuver in very tight spaces, as may be required around a future International Space Station.
We missed that on the recorder, Mark. Then we got it right. Got it, thanks. What cameras you looking at right now?
Great view of the elbow camera down here.
What about the B cam or the Bravo camera?
We got both great views, Mark.
Well, we mentioned the Air Force earlier. The only comment that I got is I'd like to say hello to all of my classmates at the 20th reunion at the Air Force Academy. I wish I could be there, but as you see, someone's got to fly high cover for all of you. Well, I think I'm staying exactly where I want to be, so this is working really good.
Looking great from in here, Mark.
Throughout the evaluation, Mark Lee will be heard reading numbers, basically giving remaining nitrogen available in the safer unit. And the reports from EVA Officer Sue Rainwater here in Mission Control are that he's actually using less nitrogen for this process than was trained for. The battery power usage is about right on the money as to what the predicteds were pre-flight.
21. Copy.
And Mark Lee now very carefully rounding the corner, the elbow position on the robot arm, making the final turn, coming back, headed down toward the payload bay.
I don't think I'm going to get it. The sun's not right.
And Kyle, looking at the picture, you can see how relatively easy it seems to be to fly. He can take his hand off the controller, and the motion continues in a very smooth way. It's like a bit like taking your hand off the steering wheel. In this case, the motion proceeds straight ahead, very smooth.
I'm going to skip the tether. Put it back off here and take a...
And Joe, did you get the same sense when you flew the MMU of having command over that unit, feeling full control over the maneuverability like it appears that Mark Lee is having here?
Absolutely. It's easy to control in a very precise way. It's considerably more complicated than this in that you're controlling both the rotation and the translation at the same time. I say complicated, it's more versatile. One couldn't move this in such a rapid way with a lot of motions all at once. But because this is a safing device, you don't need that complexity here.
Okay, we're tethered.
As we look at the TV picture, it's very easy to see Carl making inputs into the hand controller, and you can then pretty much see with your own eyes that the unit reacts. In other words, he moves once the input goes in. It's very slow, very deliberate, almost dreamlike.
And Joe, we were talking just a minute ago about whether or not you had conversations with your co-flyer on your spacewalk, Dale Gardner, after your EVA, because he was going to go out the next day and do the same thing, and you were commenting that you really didn't debrief that much because it flew so well, and you were relating that to what they're doing here.
Yes, because Mark and Carl have not been talking about how it flies differently than they expected. I think we can almost presume that it's flying pretty much the way their simulators and trainers had indicated it would. You can see clearly the pluming of the control thrusters, pluming the tether. From time to time the tether will bounce, and that's the gaseous nitrogen being jetted out of the controlling devices that Carl is using to move himself around with.
Record. And negative Z. It's okay. Record, armed, fly. Lots of yaw coupling there. Okay, that looks good. Record is armed.
Too far.
Now I'll get it next time. Rotation. Pitch. Now. Okay, that completes the test. 43%.
Power, please.
67.
Disconnect hand controlling module.
Okay.
Carl Meade has completed a rotation evaluation. He's already done a translation back to the rear part of the payload bay. He's now completed a rotation evaluation, and then now will maneuver back to the forward bulkhead of the orbiter. Discovery is tracking northeast across the Pacific Ocean on the latter portions of orbit 110.
And Kyle, we can see 3 satellites in this picture. There's the satellite Discovery, the satellite Planet Earth, satellite of the Sun, and satellite Carl Meade.
Hand controller back on.
Susan Helms maneuvering the arm now to allow Mark Lee to climb into the portable foot restraint attachment device, which is located on the tip of the robot arm.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready, Kyle? Good. I am now. Are you ready inside?
Ready. G2 and power, please.
7369. Okay, this will be roll. Right. Back away 5 feet when I tell you. If we hit that rigid tether, when you're out of the way. You ready? Ready. Okay, back away. It's 20, 0 and 6.
Copy.
Now there's no baseball going on, Carl, so I guess I'll have to catch you, huh? I guess so. KAH off. Off. All right, we're back. You can go back to rescue demo position.
Arm on the move.
61, 64.
Copy.
Hey, how'd you like that? You want to go faster? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I'll go a little bit faster and you off.
That's 20-degree roll.
Yep, rate display. So here we go. All right, back away the arm.
Rates.
22, 30, 22, 0, and 6.
Again, this is an evaluation of the attitude control system on the SAFER unit and its ability to provide itself as a rescue device.
This is looking at a son, this will be tough.
Once Mark Lee releases Carl Meade and puts him into a gentle spin, the arm is backed away, and Carl Meade is supposed to fly the safer unit back to his co-worker on the end of the robot arm.
Arm is stopped.
Okay, back to rescue demo position. 33%, 59%.
Copy. All right.
16,
Halfway to the arm.
21.
The two astronauts using lights on their helmets now as the orbiter moves into darkness. The last of the rescue demonstration sequences had Mark Lee spin Carl Meade in a multi-axis rotation. Then Susan Helms slowly moves the robot arm across the orbiter while Mark Lee flies the safer almost from wing to wing.
Drop the arm.
Again, to demonstrate the capabilities of the safer unit as a rescue device should an astronaut become untethered from which is just approaching the 5-hour mark.
Okay, Jerry, the tether reel stow is done. I'm going in to get the UFR. And the fuel carry.
Houston for Carl.
Go ahead.
Yeah, at 18% battery, sir, we suggest you start the precision approach from your present position.
Okay, we'll do that.
Those words to Carl Meade are that the battery power is getting a little low, and so instead of following that profile back down to the shoulder joint, he's going to go ahead and fly the precision approach to the aft flight deck windows of the orbiter. Clearly in view is the primary payload on the mission, the LIDAR in space technology experiment housed in the forward portion of Discovery's payload bay.
And Kyle, we can see on his forearm there the electronic checklist that he's been evaluating or will evaluate. The other checklist, more normal, the one I was used to, is on his other arm, and you see the pages of it flapping in the breeze from time to time.
Yeah, I remember a little while ago we were noticing, or you were noticing, that the actually the jet firings on the backpack were fluttering the paper checklist on his other arm.
Guidance, Navigation, and Control Officer reports Commander Dick Richards is now manually flying the spacecraft as it begins its turn around the heading alignment cylinder, again an imaginary cylinder around which it will fly a 330-degree left turn to align with runway 04. Cylinder created by the microwave scan beam landing system in place at Edwards Air Force Base. Discovery's altitude 30,000 feet.
Discovery Houston, we show you slightly low at the 180. Roger that.
Commander Dick Richards continuing a right turn around the heading alignment cylinder created by the microwave scan beam landing system at Edwards. Altitude is now 22,000 feet.
Discovery on energy at the 90.
Call indicating that Discovery is right on course and on track for its touchdown. Touchdown is now about 2 minutes away. Discovery's altitude 18,000 feet. Airspeed 260 knots. Discovery completing a left turn to align with runway 04. Discovery now aligning with the center line, performing a subsonic maneuver test as part of a test objective on the mission. Altitude 6,500 feet.
Discovery on glide slope on center line. Winds are now 070 at 4, peak 10.
Call indicating Discovery's descent is right on target, and Commander Dick Richards is aligned with the center of runway 04, altitude 3,000 feet. Airspeed 300 knots. Altitude 600 feet. Landing gears down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Drag chute deploy. Nose gear touchdown. Discovery rolling out on runway 04 at Edwards Air Force Base, California after 177 trips around the world in 11 days and 4.5 million miles underneath the wings.
Question was, have you seen any? They don't know. Can you tell if cabin payload 2 is on?
We can tell cabin payload main A is on, and that's all. And if you give me some times, I'll check for any anomalous data.
And I'll get a time flight. Okay, I thought we turned that on in the post insertion somewhere, but I may be mistaken.
Oh, the buses, you're right. The cabin payload bus has been on a long time, but the action, SPIFX action that might have caused the spike was when we first tried to power on boom bus 1.
Okay.
So we need a day, about 1 day, 2 hours, 10 minutes. That's a little lead time for configuration, positioning, or whatever.
Flight Inco?
Yes, sir.
We're back on the flight deck. Crew has the system in panel, so they've got it for the moment.
We'll let them do what they want.
Copy that.
Arm is at low hover.
Copy, low hover.
Flight GNC?
Yes, sir.
Flight, we're in A9 auto Vern.
Hey, all right.
And looks like they're working TCS activation.
Okay. A9, and we're ready to maneuver to release. Okay.
Flight Inco?
Yes.
We are configured to take Diego two-way.
Copy. Capcom, it looks
Discovery,
like...
we are 2 minutes to a Tidris LOS. We will get you through Diego Garcia at 22 hours and 48 minutes.
He sees an initial drop in pressure which indicates the toggle valve is closed. He needs to continue to vent for about 30 seconds to ensure that the hose is entirely bled down.
That's the key here. It's the regulators regulating on the recharge hose pressure, not on the tank. Okay, that's what we need to get across to him, I think.
Well, it works better in flight than it did in the wet F.
Okay, back away. Good, 20, 0 and 6.
Not sure. Let's help.
Okay, drop off. Alright, we're backing. Go back to rescue demo position. I'm on the move. 61, 64.
Captain.
This is looking at a sign this will be tough.
Well, AVA, that was a double with a full twist.
Army staff.
Degree of difficulty, 2.7.
Reach off. Off. We go back.
Roll, or the arm is on roll. Yaw next, no AH.
I'll fix this cutter now, Carl. Okay, thanks.
Then, Carl, we are thinking about your battery status.
30 and 10%.
30 at 10.
Flight EVA needs to expedite the approach.
Yep. Looks like he's put in an extra pulse or two. He's moving much quicker. I think that's the last input we gave him did that.
radar with you on the west satellite. It looked like a good burn.
Looks good on board, Brent.
Break eye cells. Shoot. Nose gear touchdown.
Ground speed enable, auto load release.
Copy. Ground speed enable, auto load release.
Congratulations on an outstanding mission. You guys did a fantastic job up there.
DPS.
No deltas.
Well, we couldn't have done it without you, Brent. You and the whole Orbit 1 team and Orbit 2 team. Nice to have the same guys around on orbit as we had for Ascent and Entry.
Well, thanks, Dick. We appreciate those words. It seemed like you were reading our minds most of the time, but we were glad to help you out when we could.